Phil, if you could have a dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Wow. Um, Kind of fitting given where I am, but it would probably be Nelson Mandela.
Hmm.
I don't understand his superhuman resilience. Like, how can you spend decades in prison and still come out the same person with the same ambition and the same drive and the same motivation, and most importantly, not become bitter? Like, he didn't come out of prison and say, I'm going to screw over everybody that put me in there. He came out of prison and said, we all deserve to be in this country, we all deserve to be safe, and we all deserve to live as one. I don't think I could. Well, I don't. I'll take that one step further. I couldn't do that. If you subjected me to what they put him through, I would not have come out the same person. So I would love to just understand where that superhuman resilience come from, and maybe even take 1 or 2% of it for myself, because I think it would more than double what I have within me right now. I find the guy incredibly motivating and
Yeah.
inspirational.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. This is a conversation with Phil Pelucha, entrepreneur, sports business consultant, and founder of the Pelucha Sports Academy. His journey is nothing short of extraordinary. From experiencing homelessness at 14 to building an 8-figure consultancy that's transforming the landscape for underprivileged athletes and businesses alike. Today we uncover his inspiring path, the lessons sport have taught him about resilience and leadership, and his strategies for helping businesses scale to new heights. This is your host, Sid Bensalah. Here on Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast, we bring you a real conversation with real change makers, diving deep into leadership, innovation, and the power of sports to drive meaningful progress. So sit back, get inspired, and let's jump in. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. You have a very relaxing voice, so I have a feeling we're going to have fun over the next hour or
We
so.
will. Phil, your academy isn't just about sports, it's about opportunity. What inspired you to create it?
Good question. It's something I've known I've wanted to do for a long time. So you kind of touched a little bit in the intro on my backstory. So I didn't exactly have the best start, and sport and being good at football in particular, soccer, depending on where some of your listeners are. I'll refer to it as football from now on. The one with the foot and the ball, right? Not the hand and the egg. So the one that makes sense. So my talent in that literally was able to take me from the streets into an academy on a full scholarship, where they put food in my belly and clothes on my back, having previously had neither of those for a period of time, and really was able to kind of elevate my life. So as everything I've done from that point has kind of built upon that foundation. I was medically retired from the sports game in my early 20s, and then moved into business, and I've had a lot of success in business and continue to do so, God willing. And I've always known that at some point when the time was right, I wanted to be able to create something that would be able to, I don't know if pay it forward is the phrase I want to use, but almost like return the favor. Somebody took a chance on me, and really gave me an opportunity to elevate my life and the life of my entire immediate family. And I've always been very passionate about doing that for other people. So that's been the main motivation behind setting up the academies.
Yeah. You've built it around a means tested model, making it accessible to talented athletes regardless of their financial background. How does that work in practice, Phil?
Yeah, so the main reason for that is one of the first academies we've set up is actually where I am right now. I'm currently down in South Africa, kind of overseeing the setup of that. We're about 3 weeks away, depending on when you listen to this, from the start of the season. So we've got everything kind of up and running. Everybody's very excited, but there was a few things about South Africa that I liked, and there were a few things that I kind of disliked. For the purpose of answering this question, one of the things that I really disliked was there are a number of academies that already exist here. In fact, there are also a number of affiliated sort of professional team academies down here. Wolves have something down here. Real Madrid have just set something up down here. Liverpool had something in Cape Town for a while. Manchester City. There's a number of quite large teams that have facilities down here. Except everything, whether you're affiliated with a large club or whether it's a private academy, is all based around money. And some of them are more expensive than others. I mean, some of them, the annual costs for one player to be able to attend for the season is about double the average income here. So it's a business, and that wasn't what I wanted this to be. I make plenty of money in other aspects of my life. I didn't need to make money from this aspect. So one of the things that really bothered me was that there are a number of very talented individuals who come from a not too dissimilar or even worse situation than one that I found myself in. And I would never have been able to afford to go. It was the fact that somebody gave me a full scholarship. Somebody gave me a free ride, essentially. I mean, I earned my place and I worked damn hard for it, but there was no financial exchange there, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to entertain it. I wouldn't have been able to play. I mean, I couldn't even afford a roof over my head, let alone be able to afford a professional sports academy fee. So that was why we designed this to be means tested. So what that essentially means is this: if you can afford to pay all of the fee, you pay all of the fee. And again, the fees are substantially lower than the other academies. If you can afford to pay some of the fee or contribute something, so you can't afford the fees, but you can afford to buy your training kits and your match kits, then you do that. If you come from a background where you can't afford to pay anything, then you pay nothing. Right down to, we have been sorting accommodation, we've been sorting transportation, we've been sorting your kits, we've been sorting your training, you name it, we're sorting it. The thing that I didn't want to be the case here was that, just like everybody else, money becomes the barrier to entry. That was never the case for me. I do not want money to be the barrier to entry. And in fact, I probably don't even run the means tested thing in the best possible way. And what I mean by that is, it's not like I do financial checks on people's families. I guess there's a case of honesty and transparency here. And I've been pretty surprised so far by just how open and willing people are to contribute. I mean, even people that can't contribute financially have been offering to do, taxi runs where they pick players up on the way to training and they bring them with them and almost carpool. And, there's somebody who came to us and said, look, I can't afford to contribute anything, but I work with this charity that feeds disadvantaged communities, several times a week. Would it be okay if once a week we bring down that charity and we provide food for the players and for their families? And it's so people are always kind of contributing in whatever way they feel they can without it needing to be a financial contribution. And for me, I really like that aspect of the academy. I have to be honest. It's the fact that nobody's worrying about where the fees are coming from. Nobody's worrying about, I mean, we had a tournament 3 weeks ago, and it was a 6-a-side tournament, and I had 9 players with me. And about 3 days before, I think it was 5 or 6 of the players informed me that they didn't have boots. So the first thing I did was go to the mall and buy them all football boots.
Nice.
So this isn't an ego boost thing for me. This is just seen for me as doing the right thing. And I'm fortunate enough that most of my income comes from dollars and comes from dirham and comes from pounds and comes from euros, which goes a long way in rand. So for me, you paying me 1,000 rand a month, which is about £50 or something, right? That to me is going to do nothing, absolutely nothing. But to you, that could be the difference between being able to afford your bills or not, being able to put food on the table or not. So I would much rather just say, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, than I would put people under stress and pressure in order to try and give their children a better way of life.
Yeah, really nice. Can you share, Phil, 1 or 2 success story, an athlete whose life has been transformed by the academy?
Well, it's very new, so that's difficult to answer right now because the academy's only just been created. But there's a few that I would definitely mention straight away. Obviously, I won't name names because that's not the right thing to do. One of the things that I did with this academy that was a real surprise, so let me just take you back a little step because it kind of feeds into why this has been successful. When I started to talk to clients and friends and partners about what I was planning on doing, there was a lot of people that started offered to get involved. Some people donated money, some people donated time, but there was something that was donated that for me was was certainly more valuable than money, possibly even more valuable than time. And that was knowledge. You know, these are incredibly talented entrepreneurs, coaches, trainers, consultants, marketing professionals, you know, business owners who've grown what they have from practically nothing, bootstrapped, to being successful entrepreneurs today. And they've donated training. Some of them have actually gone out of their way to create entire training programs aimed around the philosophy of what did I wish I knew at 15 that I know now? And they've donated those completely for free. Some people have actually just donated existing training that they already have completely for free. I think at the last calculation, we stopped counting, but at the last calculation, it was something like $1.2 million worth of free training that had been provided by these experts. And as a result, what we've been able to do is give that training completely for free, no charge whatsoever, to both the parents and the young players alike, so that they can start to learn from entrepreneurs and business owners and successful people globally about what is and isn't possible and how you can implement these things and actual action steps. And I really like that, because I feel like, again, I feel like I'm dishing on South Africa a little bit here, and I don't mean to, but a lot of the advice that is given to people out here is either one of two things. Very much like the British. They're quite pessimistic. So Americans, in my experience, have this philosophy of you can do and be anything. They love that rags to riches story. You know, they tell anybody you can be the next president in the United States, and they genuinely mean it. Whereas Brits are, don't get ahead of yourself. If things are going well, it's like it's the calm before the storm, right? And it's the same in South Africa, except it's more of a, well, why would that happen to me? And that's quite a sad attitude. So you either have people reinforcing that message of good things happen, but not to you, which is very sad. Or you have the cheesy, rah-rah motivational people that are going, you can do anything, you can do this, you can be successful, but then give them absolutely zero practical tips on how to do that. You just pump them up to the point where they're like, yes, I can do this. And then suddenly they have that moment of realization of, okay, how? What do I do? So to be able to provide all this training and support for the players and the parents alike completely for free and say, here it is. Here are some great people that I know. They have awesome mindsets, but they also have brilliant strategies that you can follow step by step. That has been incredibly powerful. And already players and parents alike have actually started to share some of their success stories, even in the early stages of some of the things that they've been able to do. One of them, for example, came to me only about a weekend ago and told me that they've got a promotion at work by applying one of the strategies that they'd been taught in one of those videos. One of them has actually been talking specifically for about the last week solid, messaging me saying, I'm ready to do my own thing. I'm ready to set something up. I'm ready to create a new life for me and for my kids. And I mean, what can you say? That's really inspirational. It's really motivational.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Phil, is it easy or complicated to set up an academy in South Africa?
I need to be careful with how I answer this. There was a lot more work than I would have liked. It wasn't particularly complicated. It was rather time consuming. And there's a lot of people with a lot of hands out.
Yeah, clear. Yeah. And
it's like, this is a great idea. What's it worth to me? Is probably usually the conversation. So, but yeah, don't get me wrong. There's been some incredible people who've really been supported. We're working with a guy called Teboho from the South African Association for Football, and he's just been phenomenal at really kind of facilitating a lot of this and supporting us. Very quickly, he bought into the vision of what it is we're trying to do and has kind of rolled that out. There's a number of people who've actually kind of gone out of their way. I mean, one of them has a sports training complex, and they actually run their own academy or ran their own academy. And after a few weeks of conversations with me, he said, okay, I want to do a deal with you where you use our facilities for training and we'll agree a special rate for that. But actually your academy is better than ours and it stands for more than ours does. We're going to close ours down and just drive everybody towards you. So I instantly inherited about 40 to 60 new players, plus about 5 or 6 coaches. So it's... Like I said, I think the best way to describe it is it's not difficult. It hasn't been complicated. It's been very time consuming.
Yeah. And are you linked or affiliated to, let's say, the sporting governing body down there, or?
Yeah, so the South African Football Association we're doing a lot of work with. They've been really, really helpful. They're helping us a lot. There are a number of local sports bodies that we've now got involved in as well, including the Gold One League and We're getting involved with a number of businesses in terms of sponsorship too. So there's a number of people that we're involved with that are kind of facilitating this growth. I think one of the big things for me, possibly one of the most challenging so far, has been trying to find people who are really aligned with what it is that we're doing, and not just telling me that they're aligned with what we're doing so that they can get involved in the success of this and the growth of this and the visibility of this. I mean, within the first couple of months of being here, we had some major media coverage, and that was really powerful. And
That's
the
nice.
website nearly broke because we were getting a lot of people driven towards us. Now, that was very powerful, but the downside to that was you also get a lot of people who then smell an opportunity and say what it is they think you want to hear in order for them to come and get involved in that. So it's been a difficult one to navigate. Unfortunately, it haven't just been as simple as taking everybody at their word. There's been a few times where I've had to let my intuition kind of take over rather than my mind, and I'm like saying the right things, but I'm just not feeling this. But that's been really powerful. There's also something amazing happening with a client and a friend of mine, a guy called Dan. He runs the World Freestyle Football Association, and they do some truly incredible things. He's been very supportive over what we're doing, but he's actually only recently, within the last week or so, asked me to help create an international tournament down here, almost like a World Cup style thing within South Africa for the continent, to really bring exposure and attention towards that as well. So combining that with what we're doing with the Academy and the Football Association, there's a lot of really exciting things happening. There are some really great people involved in sport. There are. It reminds me a little bit of the US class system. There are the haves and there are the have-nots. In sport, there are those who are there for money and there are those who are there for impact, and never the twain shall meet. So finding those who can support us from a financial perspective, because they see the benefit of this, certainly has its place. I'm not going to pretend I don't like money. I like money as much as the next person, but actually finding people who are truly involved in the impact side of sport and wanting to have a massive impact, which is ultimately what this academy was set up for, that is arguably more powerful and more important to me than the person that comes with a checkbook.
Yeah. And how many members you have now?
About 80 at the moment, and that's about to increase quite substantially because we have the next 2 weekends are our trial weekends ahead of the season. So, as I said, we practically inherited an entire academy because they closed down and said, yours is better, here you go, do this. And that was quite powerful. They were from no disrespect to them, but they were from a disadvantaged community. Many of their players genuinely struggled to pay the fees. Some of them had arrears as far as their bills were concerned. And credit to them, they would never kick the children out. They would just say, look, parents can pay when they can pay. But then that caused tension. And, I found out some sad stories of players that haven't had their parents come and watch them all season because their parents are embarrassed to come and show their face when they owe money. And knowing that we're not doing that and knowing that we're entirely not for profit, they were like, okay, this solves a lot of those problems here, please take it. So we're continuing to grow quite rapidly. We have 3 professional teams now that are going to be in one of the best youth leagues here in South Africa. That's very exciting, and we're in the process of lining up some international tournaments as well for the next 12 to 18 months, which will be really exciting.
Really good, really good. Phil, you mentioned earlier that there is so many other academies representing known brands, known club. For our listeners, Phil, if you can just give us a glimpse in terms of the cost, the package, for someone, let's say, that can afford, or parents that can afford to put their kids in these known academies, what's the average, let's say, just to get our head around, between subscription within the academy, between getting the equipment and plus maybe traveling?
Well, fees alone, you're looking at about 300 to 600,000 rand a year, which is about 17 to 33,000 US dollars per year, and that's before kits, accommodation, and travel. So you can add maybe 20% additional onto those fees for those things to be included as well. Now, that's not terrible, but when you think about the fact that the average salary here is probably circa $1,000 a month, some people earning substantially less than that. Naturally, there are people that are earning substantially more than that too. That's a lot of money. And parents are often having to work multiple jobs in order to be able to put their students through this. and their players through this. So it goes a long way, and it costs a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look, I don't want to sound like a bleeding heart, but I also don't want to sound like a capitalist either. You know, there's a great quote. In fact, I saved it the other day. It's from Wolf of Wall Street, and I like some parts of that movie, not everything. But there's a great quote, and I've got a picture of it on my phone. I might actually use it as one of my statuses one of these days. And it says, and I've been a rich man and I've been a poor man, and I choose rich every time. And I recognize that. I can resonate with that. Look, money definitely opens up opportunities that I didn't even know existed. So, you know, if I was in a position that I am now, and one of my children wanted to go to a professional arts college or dance college or drama college or whatever it's going to be, and I had the money to do so, I would do so. But that doesn't make it right that there are lots of very talented individuals that weren't born into those circumstances. They didn't ask to be born into those circumstances, so why should they be punished because they were? And that's really where, like I said, I mean, maybe it's even a selfish thing in a way, because you know, I think about my own situation. I don't know whether I'm a psychopath and can't really feel empathy unless it affects me, but I think about my situation, and I think I wouldn't have been able to achieve the things that I've achieved if somebody didn't take a chance on me, and if there was a financial cost involved in that, it would never have been an option for me. So it would be rather hypocritical of me to create something where that wasn't the case for other people too.
Yeah. You've been both a professional athlete and a business leader. What's the biggest leadership lesson sports taught you?
Oh, that's a great question. Can I give you two? Because I can never decide
Go
between
ahead.
the two. So the first one I would say is business is a team sport. And it really doesn't matter how good you are and how talented you are in the boardroom or on the field. If you're not surrounded by people who are equally as talented at what they do, you're not going to win a trophy. And I think too many people in business try to wear, especially in the early startup stages, they try to wear every hat. They try to do every role. They try to do everything themselves. And that's not how business or sports work. You know, you can't be the striker, the defender, the goalkeeper, the midfielder all at the same time. It's not possible. And in fact, one of the big lessons that actually came from acknowledging that isn't just about creating strategic partnerships and networks and constantly up-leveling your team. It's to do the opposite of what school teaches you. So school teaches you, hey, listen, you're really good at maths, so stop focusing on maths because you're pretty terrible at English, so go and focus on English. Whereas sports and successful business owners and successful entrepreneurs actually do the opposite. They say, you know what? I'm really terrible at drama, so I'm just not going to do drama. I'm going to hire someone who's really good at drama, and that's their position, and they can go and do the drama. But I'm really good at English literature, so I'm just going to focus all of my time and effort into English literature. And it's the complete opposite of what of what school teaches you to do, but it is the single biggest factor that makes you a successful athlete and a successful business owner. So that's definitely a big one. I think the other one is that you learn more from your losses than you do from winning. And most of the time, I come across a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, and their biggest fear is failure. What if I fail? And you have to give them the question, well, what if you don't, right? You know, one of the things I love to say is if you knew that failure wasn't possible, that you were guaranteed to succeed at whatever it is you wanted to do, what would you do? And the answers they give you every single time are completely different to the business they're currently running. Every single time. You know, it's very, very rare I come across someone that's like, I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. In fact, I can't think of a single occasion when that's ever happened. So one of the things I remember this story very clearly. So I just played a really good game. I was probably about 18, 19 years old. It was a semi-final, and I'd scored once and assisted twice. It was literally the best game of my life. I was so pleased with myself. You know, it was the first time I'd ever been asked, because I was playing with the senior team, it was the first time I'd ever been asked to go and do the post-match press conference and go and talk to the media, which was a really new experience, and I really enjoyed that. Everybody was patting me on the back. I went out that night I was in Budapest. I went out that night into Budapest, and I didn't pay for a drink the whole night. It was brilliant. And then the next day I come in for recovery training, and I'm a little bit hungover. And everyone's still patting me on the back, telling me, well done, well done. And then the head coach calls me into his office. He hardly speaks to me. He just kind of looks at me a bit. And then he puts this, I'm showing my age now, he puts a VHS tape in the player. And he proceeds to show me a highlight. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be like my highlight reel. He's going to show me all the stuff I did well. And he proceeded to show me about 20 to 25 minutes of all the things I'd done wrong in that game. None of the good stuff, just all the bad stuff. And I remember thinking, this guy's an ass. Like, I was in a really good mood, and now he's just sucked me. And he didn't even say anything. He just played the video and then was like, you can go now. And I was like, I don't understand the purpose of that. Like, I was in a really good place, and now you've just sapped my energy. For the rest of the day, I kind of sulked. I was in a bit of a mood the entire day, just a bit mopey. And one of the assistant coaches comes up to me when I'm leaving, and he says, what's wrong with you today? Like, you had the game of your life yesterday, and now you're in a really stinky mood. So I told him what happened. And I expected him to kind of join in with me and be like, oh yeah, what a bad guy he is. Like, why did he do that? And he just shook his head and he said, you've completely misread that situation. And I said, so enlighten me, because I haven't got a clue what's going on. He said he knows that was the best game of your life. He just wants it to be the best game of your life so far. So if he can show you all the areas that you can still improve, the next game can be even better. And the one after that can be even better. And I went home feeling like such a fool that I'd spent a whole day sulking when actually he was just trying to help me. And, you know, I remember saying to him a few weeks later, you know, it really bothered me, but I've learned from that now. And he said, what was the point of showing you your highlight reel? That's for when you retire. And I was like, it's a good point. It's a very good point. So that's a really big lesson that I've taken with me into business, which is, you know, in business that looks like iteration. It looks like learning from your mistakes. It looks like A/B testing things. It looks like letting the data speak and not making so many emotional decisions. It looks like not being afraid to take a chance, but also being big enough, man enough, woman enough, whatever you want to call it, to be able to look at a situation and say, I tried something, it didn't work. I'm not afraid to try something else. I'm not afraid to go back. You know, successful people repeat successful actions, but that doesn't mean that they don't also try and explore new things as well. So it's about striking that balance and really learning from your mistakes.
Yeah. Phil, how would you define leadership?
There's a few ways, actually, I would define leadership. So leadership for me is about inspiration. It's about getting the best out of those people around you. I think there are a lot of self-proclaimed leaders that are very good at pushing themselves forward. But actually leadership is more about being able to get the best out of people that surround you, not just get the best out of yourself. In fact, I'm not very good at getting the best out of myself. I'm divergent and I'm quite self-critical, and the voice in my head is not particularly friendly to me. But I'm usually pretty good at inspiring people and motivating them and using storytelling to really kind of get people to buy into a vision so that they feel part of something and so they drive forward. And I'm not saying for a second, by the way, that I'm the best leader in the world, but that's how I perceive leadership is, can you get people to come on a journey with you? Can you get people to believe in you and be inspired to take action? If you can, that's what I recognize to be a good leader.
And do you believe, let's say, the best leaders, are they made or born?
I think it's a bit of both. And it really is a bit of both, actually. So I think anybody can learn to be a leader. But I do think there are people who are inherently good at that skill and that are born with that skill. But even those people, you know, they need to learn and improve those skills as well. Because one of the challenging things is you can't teach what you never had to learn. So if you're born as somebody who can constantly inspire people and motivate them and take them with you, when it comes time to teach those leadership skills to somebody else, you can't do it because you don't know why you do it. You know, it's like asking somebody, well, how do you breathe? Well, I don't know, I just breathe. Whereas somebody who that didn't come naturally to, they are the best teachers because they've had to learn how to do this. They've done trial and error. They've experienced these things. So I think it really genuinely is a mixture of the two. I think one of the things that makes a good entrepreneur may not necessarily make somebody a good leader. My definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who's unemployable. They're too much of a, they're too free-spirited. Yeah. You know, the things that made me a nightmare of a student and got me kicked out of school at 14 are the exact same traits that make me successful as a business owner and as a consultant. Yeah. So I really genuinely think it's about the two. I think,
Yeah.
what's that saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And it's very, very true. And there's another quote I saw recently, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'll tell you my version of it. It was something like, an idiot with a plan will always beat a genius without one.
I like it.
And for me, it's, if you are naturally good at something and still dedicate time to improve that skill and learn more about it, you are unstoppable, because now you're combining hard work and talent. If you're somebody who's not naturally good at this, don't be disappointed with that. Know that hard work will beat all those people that think they're naturally gifted at it and aren't bothering working on their craft. And believe me, there are a lot of those people. I mean, if we take it back to the sports aspect for a minute, there's a reason that less than 1% of players who go to professional academies will ever make it as a professional player. And there's a whole host of reasons why that happens. They stop progressing, they stop developing, they don't grow to the right height, they get a bad injury. There's lots of ways, but I'm going to tell you one of the main ones now, and it's probably the most disappointing one. They peak too early and become too confident in their abilities, so they stop trying. They think they've already made it. They think they're God's gift. So at 14, 15 years old, you're like, I'm going to be in the Champions League. I'm going to be in the World Cup finals. And then at 18, they don't get their professional contract and they go, what the hell happened? And it's like, well, you took 3 years off because you were too busy celebrating your future successes. Whereas the guy who was in the team was like, I'm nowhere near as gifted as him, but I'm going to make sure I outwork him every session, every game, they're the people that make it to that successful peak level.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. You've helped businesses go from 500,000 US dollar to 9 million in 12 months. What's the key to unlocking that kind of exponential growth?
Outside of the box thinking, I think, is probably one. You can't stand out by blending in. I think most people's problem isn't lack of talent, it's lack of visibility and authority. So they have people that know, like, and trust them. They just need to widen that circle of influence. And I think whilst outside the box thinking is important, and it is important, and I think you always have to look at things through the lens of that, I'm not talking about reckless decision making. So what I mean by that is, if I want to make $10 million a year, and I imitate the model that a company making $50 million a year is implementing, plus I apply some of my outside of the box thinking, I'm pretty likely to get quite close. I look at it like a recipe book, right? If I follow, I'm not Gordon Ramsay, I'm not a Michelin star chef, but if I follow his recipe and watch his video and do it step by step along with him, it's going to taste something like it's supposed to, even if it's not Michelin star standard. And I think what happens is, and again, I don't mean to make this entire thing a criticism of the education system, but I think this is also comes down to the education system. The education system teaches you, don't copy, don't cheat, come up with your own answers. I'd rather you give me a subpar answer that's your own than copy an A-grade student and then submit that. But again, that's not how business works. So what happens is a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners take that philosophy in there. So I will go away and do some research and I'll say, look, 3 of your biggest competitors are all following these 4 or 5 strategies. Why aren't you doing them? And the answer is because they're doing them. It's like, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're not going to get like downgraded on your homework because you're doing the same thing. Like, successful people repeat successful actions. That doesn't just apply to your actions. That applies to actions that are working in the industry. So if they are following a strategy that is producing them an extra $10, $20 million compared to you, why aren't you doing it? So there's probably the first major one. The second one is something that I call industrial and geographical cross-pollination, which is a very fancy way of saying, I like to look at ideas that are working in different industries, in different sectors, not just your competitors, but also, you know, what I call non-competitive markets. So who are the people that are working with the same target audience that you are, delivering a different service or product? And then really doing a deep dive assessment to say, well, what are people doing well? And once we have all of that information in front of us, we can then apply that through the lens of, okay, well, who are you? What do you want to achieve? What do you feel comfortable with? You don't like being on camera? Fine. We'll take off all the media stuff and we'll do written stuff instead. Not a big writer, but you like being on camera? Great. Let's use the broadcast side of things. Let's use that instead. And once we have that, it almost becomes like a recipe book. Not even like a recipe book, more like a menu. Mm-hmm. It becomes more like a menu at that point where we can select the things that we want. It's like going through a catalog and going, "Oh, that sounds nice, and I'll do that one, I'll do that one." But they're strategies that are already proven to be working. So we're not taking unnecessary risks and guessing at what we should be doing. We're finding recipes and blueprints that work across your sector, across other sectors, across new markets, across new industries, knowing that they're already proven to work, and then finding the perfect combination and recipe for you so that we can apply those into your business. Yeah. And once you do that, it doesn't take long to become very successful, because going back to the recipe analogy, you might be cooking a 5-course meal, but if you've got a recipe for every single one of them and it's perfected to your ideal guest and your audience, it's going to be one hell of a dinner party.
Absolutely. What's the biggest mistake businesses make when they're trying to scale?
I'm going to give you the first answer that came to mind. There's a few, but I'm going to give you the first answer that came to mind. Lack of action. The amount of people that are waiting for this right moment. And I'm going to tell you, I've never come across it. I still don't think I found the right moment, ever. There is no right moment. It doesn't exist. And the more you try and tell yourself that there is, I mean, again, I don't want to go all spiritual and woo-woo with this, but that sends a very dangerous message to God or the universe that whatever it is that you want is in the future. And I think that's very dangerous. So you don't have to have the entire roadmap. You don't have to know exactly where it is you're going to go and exactly what the destination is. You just need to start walking. And so many people don't. They want to have everything mapped out. They want to know what the next 2 to 5 years looks like in graphic detail before they'll start taking any action. And here's the thing. You don't know. I mean, some of my most successful business models weren't ideas that I came up with. I started doing one thing, an opportunity presented itself, or some knowledge had presented itself, and I said, oh, well, that's interesting. I should possibly change to do that then. So then I'd start trialing that and then realize how successful that was, and then that evolves, and then that grows. There was no grand 5-year plan. I didn't sit with a pen and paper and map out what all of this was going to look like. So just take the action. And I think that's what people are terrified of. Everybody is so afraid of failure that they refuse to take the action until they know exactly what they're doing. And sorry if I'm shattering an illusion for you
it's
here.
Okay.
Having worked with some of the most successful business owners and entrepreneurs in the world, they haven't got a bloody clue what they're doing either. They've just failed more times than you've tried. So just give something a go. You're at very least going to learn something. It's going to open a door. So take the action, because if you don't take the action, you're never going to see the results. And stop waiting for the right time, because it doesn't exist. So if I could change your perception on right time, I would say this. The right time was yesterday. The next best time is today. The worst time is tomorrow.
Yeah. You often say, if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. What does that mean to you, and how has it shaped your career?
I've spent most of my career with people thinking I'm insane. Is point one. There's one of my friends, a good mentor of mine, he actually told me a quote probably 20 years ago at this point, and I still remember it to this day. And he said to me, let me get the wording right. He said, how do I word this? The same people that ask you why you're doing it will be the first people to ask you how you did it. And that actually came true in my life. The people that were like, it's too risky to leave the corporate world. What are you doing? Like, you've got a family. Oh my God. Why are you closing down and selling that business? It's so successful. It's doing so well. Like, okay, you've fallen out of love with it, but you'll get it back. You'll be fine. Don't do this. The people who come to you and go, this is awesome. Hey, can you help me do this? Like, how did you do this? Like, I'm ready to leave now. I want to do my thing. So that constant drive for always going bigger has led me to where I am today, and also the feeling that I'm only just getting started. We found out about 2 years ago that we were in the top 1% of our industry in terms of earning, in terms of awards, and in terms of everything else.
Wow.
And everybody was celebrating except me. I've never felt more disappointed in my whole life, because I was like, well, now I need something else, because like I've already completed this. Like this is boring now. What else can we do? I wanted to find out I was in like the bottom 50 to 60%, not in the top one, because then I would have a long way to go. I would have still would have had things to achieve. But to realize that actually you're already there, it's like, well, everything now is about eking out minor improvements. It isn't about making major strides forward, and that's what I'm all about. So I like to challenge myself. I think one of the things that it's definitely led to with me in particular, can't speak for other people, is I've already achieved far more than anybody thought was possible for me, given my start in life and given my background. Yet I still feel like I'm only just getting started. So I'm mainly driven now by a sense of just pure curiosity. Like, I don't know what my ceiling is, but I want to find out. And every time I do something and it's successful and it helps people, I feel very proud of that. I feel very happy. And then instantly I get that itchy feeling of, I can do more than this. I can go bigger. I can do something else. So that's what inspires me, is that drive to go bigger. But the drive is fueled by the curiosity of, I don't know what I can achieve, so let's go find out.
Yeah. When you say that your entourage, they say that you are insane, is it the way you approach things? Is it your ideas? Is it, let's say you want to take something so big that you are not sure how you can pull it off? Or what is it?
I think it's probably the fact that, I think there's probably a few things actually. I think one of them is that I'm always very excitable, like for something new, and I go all in, and then I'll create a plan and I'll share it with my team, and they'll be like, wait, like 48 hours ago you were quiet and there was nothing going on. Now we have a full-blown plan of world domination 3.0. Like, what's going on now? And that's kind of hard for people to catch up with. It takes a very special person to work with me. Most of my team have been with me 3 to 4 years. Some of them have been with me as long as 6 or 7 years at this point. And we've also lost a lot of people along the way, because I'm not your traditional business owner that, here's your job, here's your SOPs, just go follow that every day and everything will be fine. My team know that at any given moment, I can completely burn down what I've done and build a new 10 times bigger mansion in its place. And they're always probably always on edge. They're always like, when's that going to happen? Because it is going to happen. And they know that. So, I mean, even the thing we were talking about earlier about the documentary film series, the documentary film and then the subsequent series, when my team heard about that, they're like, where has this come from? I was like, well, I was speaking to Showmax, and then I spoke to Netflix, and then I spoke to Amazon, and now here we have this. And they're like, so what happens now? And I'm like, glad you asked. Here's a full-blown plan and strategy. And they're like, oh, he's done it again. Like, okay, we know it's going to be successful because everything we've ever done has been successful. We know there's going to be bumps in the road. We know that there's going to be lessons. My creative director once described working with me as, it's like every day jumping out of a plane and building a parachute on the way down. And he says, but we've yet to hit the floor, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, at least it's not boring working with you. So
it's definitely not boring. No, I mean, and they get to experience 1/10 of what goes on inside my head, so you can imagine how I am. But I think there's definitely that. And I also think there's the fact that I really like a challenge. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to build to a place in their business where they get to a place of comfort, whether that's financial comfort, whether that's comfortability in what they're doing, reputation, authority, whatever it's going to be. I've now been ranked #1 in the world in 6 different industries. And the reason that happens is because every time I get to #1 in an industry, I instantly put it down and go and do something else because now I'm bored. And people find that bizarre. They're like, why would you leave this space? Like, you are known as the #1. Business is coming to you. And I'm like, because it's no longer fun. And if it's not fun, I can't keep my energy on it. I can't focus on it. So I'm going to go do something else. I think the thing I'm trying to learn how to do, and I haven't done this successfully yet, I've got to be honest, I've done it with one of my businesses so far and it's working pretty well, is instead of just walking away, is hiring somebody to run that business off the back of what we've just built.
Okay.
Whereas I've not really done that before. I have physically built a number of businesses, got them to a great state, and then either just sold them or in some occasions just closed them down and walked away and gone and done something else, because I constantly need to be challenged. And if I'm not challenged,
Then it's a problem.
I actually struggle with my I struggle with my mental health when I'm not challenged. Like I will get quite low. I'll get very bored. I'll get very down. And my wife says, when he goes quiet, it's the calm before the storm, because he'll be quiet for a week or two and then his head will go ping, this is what I want to do, and then suddenly all hell breaks loose. Now we're all running at 110 miles an hour down a hill again. I know myself well enough now to know what works for me and what doesn't, and I think that scares some people. I think some people they either think that I'm insane, or they can't work out what it is I'm trying to do and why, or they can't work out my motivations behind it. But honestly, it's just as simple as I just want to have fun while being successful. And as soon as something stops being fun, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. What advice would you have for someone facing a major challenge, whether in sports, business, or life?
Take advice from people who've come out the other side, but always filter it through intuition. Because what worked for one person isn't necessarily going to work for you. So trust your gut. The times when you're going through difficulties like that, as difficult as this is going to sound, make more decisions with your heart and less with your head. Because it was your head that got you in this mess in the first place. So you're not going to think your way out of this. You have to trust what feels right internally. And if nothing feels right internally, then you have to do an exercise that I call trying on feelings. So I will deliberately go out of my way to speak to 10, 20, 30 people who've been through this and come out the other side. And I will see which person's story and answers resonate with me and then do that.
Good. Let's shift gear and talk about sports and business. What can businesses learn from elite sports teams?
The art of winning is probably a big one. So many businesses are just there to survive, or they're not really interested in being number one in their space. They just want a slice of the pie. I mean, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners say, look, the market is this size. If I could just get 1% of that market, it'd be worth X to me. And I'm like, well, why are you setting your bar so low? Like, why is your aim to have 1% of that market? Who's the major player in that industry, and what percentage do they have, and why can't your target be to try and overtake them? I mean, that's the joy of a league table, right? Especially within professional sports. It's you look and see how many points somebody has. Sure, you can have a good guesstimate at the beginning of the season. If we can get to 80 points, we're probably going to be there or thereabouts. But even that needs to change. Like, if one of the teams suddenly ends up on 90 points, you celebrating that you got to 80 isn't good enough anymore. You have to kind of analyze who's around you. And one of the things that I feel like businesses don't really do is fully understand who their competition are. Like, they're so focused internally that 9 times out of 10, when you speak to people, you ask them and you say, look, who's your nearest competitor, and what's the most exciting thing that they've done in the last 3 months? And they go, I don't know. Like, well, you should know. Like, you should know very well, because if this was a sports scenario, and Liverpool are playing Arsenal in a few weeks, and Arsenal's just had a 6-0 victory against the team, I'd like to hope, and I know for a fact, that my team are busy analyzing how they did it, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, what can we learn from that, what can we exploit against them, what do we need to avoid against them, and building a strategy around that. And that really doesn't seem to exist all that much in business. And I can't tell whether that's because people are just very internal focused naturally. It's like, we'll just focus on us and we'll do well because we can't control outside factors. It could be that. Or whether it's an arrogance thing of, I don't need to look at everybody else, I'll just do my own thing. But that's ludicrous. I mean, if you turn up on a Sunday to play a sports game and you've done no analysis of your opposition, good luck to you. And I feel like that is the case in business. Many people really aren't looking at what's happening, not just with their competitors, but the wider field and the wider industry at far. And I feel like a lot of their problems would go away. It's really funny, actually. As a consultant, I can tell you firsthand, I've worked with a number of competitors of each other, and they all keep the same secrets from each other. It's absolutely hilarious. They're like, oh, you're under NDA, so you can't share that we do this because we don't want our competitors knowing. And I'm like, I've heard this 4 times this week from your competitors. You're all doing the same stuff and just hiding it from each other. collaboration could work well in this situation rather than competitiveness, but none of those opportunities ever open themselves up because you don't really know what the other people are doing. And that problem that you've been having for the past 6 months that giving you sleepless nights, they might have already solved it. So go and have a look, go and understand.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you need to kind of get really deep into espionage and trying to figure out everything in somebody's business. But, you know, sometimes when you get people in a room together and you just have a conversation to say, hey, listen, I've got this going on. Have you faced that? And they're like, oh, yeah, we did this, this, and this, and we tried this one and that didn't work. But then we did this and away you go. But then you might be able to return the favor with something else. So there's a lot that comes from understanding who your competition are and building relationships with them. And like I said, it's sports that has to exist because of transfers. And, you know, you'll get a sports director who's been a sports director for 2 or 3 teams. I'll give you an example. When a young player's coming through at a particular club that is now a hot prospect that everybody wants, you can pretty much predict which 2 teams they're going to go to based on which teams have a relationship with the team that they're at right now. Like I remember not that long ago, there was a player at Borussia Dortmund that came up, and Liverpool's ex-manager had been from Borussia Dortmund, and everyone was saying it's probably going to be us that gets him then, and it was. But Manchester United were really interested in him, but they burnt the fingers of Dortmund a couple of years earlier on a deal that went very badly. So they knew straight away, we're not getting this player because the relationships are strained between us. And that's how that works in sport, but it's not at all how that exists in business because they don't know enough about each other.
Yeah. You've worked with Liverpool Football Club as a lifelong fan. What was that like for you, Phil?
Well, in the 90s, it was pretty terrible because we went from domination in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and winning European Cups and winning the league 18 times, 17 times.
And on that, what's the best era Liverpool for you?
For me personally,
For you
like
personally,
I've experienced.
Even maybe as a kid,
Right.
I don't know. What's your
Right now.
Okay.
Right now. Yeah, right now.
Do you miss the former coach? Oh no.
Yeah, I do. I mean, the current coach Arne Slot's doing incredibly well. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't sure about him when he first came in, and I'm really pleased to say I was wrong. Jurgen Klopp became so much more than a football manager. He became an ambassador for our city and an ambassador for our club. Yeah. He really understood what it embodied to be a Scouser, to be a Liverpudlian, to be a Coppite, whatever you want to call us. And I don't mind admitting I cried the day I heard he was leaving. He released a video to say that he was going to be leaving at the end of the season, and I think I got about 2 minutes into it before I cried, and then checked that it wasn't April 1st to make sure it wasn't an April Fool's prank. I was devastated, but at the same time, the man gave us 9 great years of his life. He put us back to the heights of European and domestic football, and he burnt out. He was tired. You could see he was tired. He was exhausted. He didn't have anything left to give. I think it would have been very different if he left and became a manager somewhere else, because then you would question, well, why couldn't you just do that for us? But he didn't. He's almost had like a complete change of direction where he's become an executive of football at Red Bull, where he's advising other clubs on how to run. And he gets to spend much more time with his wife and his children and his grandchildren. And that's, I want that for him. So from a selfish perspective, I was very upset when he left, and I was kind of like, oh, please stay. But out of a respect perspective, the man gave us everything he possibly could. And if this is what he needs right now for him in his life, then we owe him that.
Yeah, such a character.
He really is.
I think he, look, I might be wrong, but I think he was in South Africa recently with the Sia Kolisi.
He was. Yeah, he was. He was in
Sia.
Cape Town for an event. Yeah, he was. He was indeed. Yeah, he was here about 3 weeks ago at this point, maybe 4 weeks ago at this point. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago he was here. And again, like being the Liverpool manager, I don't think it's just unique to Liverpool, but I'm speaking just from a Liverpool perspective. It's not a job. It's a life. It's a lifestyle. You are not a Liverpool manager 9 to 5 and then you get to go home. Like, it's who you are 24/7. So now he can travel and he can enjoy his time with his family, and he can spend more time with his grandson, and he's not constantly stressing about the fact we've got another game in 3 days. You know, I like that for him. I really do. I mean, if anybody deserves it, it's him.
Yeah, he's a great coach. He's a great coach.
He really
fantastic
is. He's a great
personality.
man.
A gentleman, and I like the way he handles the post-match press conferences. Really,
me too. He's very direct. He's very straight talking. He's very funny. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know when he's not happy, and I admire that about him. And you know what, as well, and hopefully this doesn't go too controversial. I think for English fans to embrace a German in that way says a lot.
I fully agree with
because that's not the norm.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. And you know, there aren't many, but there are still people around that remember the war, for example, and there will always be a mistrust of each other, and I'm pretty sure that goes both ways. You know, I was brought up in school basically being taught that the Germans were the most evil people on the planet. Look at all the stuff they did wrong. We were very rarely told anything good about German people. Then we were taught about World Cup finals where we still fight against each other, and you know, there was never anything very positive. So to have somebody come over who is, and hopefully this isn't a weird expression, he's very German. I mean, he's distinctly German. There's no pretending that he's anything else, right? He's a guy from the Black Forest with a very thick German accent, a very German name, very German mannerisms and behavior. To be embraced so much by the English and into the English game, I think is testament to who he is as a man, and he deserves the utmost respect. He certainly has mine.
No, he's a fantastic individual, straight shooter, can-do attitude, man.
Yep.
You know, and maybe there is one thing the media, they don't talk a lot about. The trust he instilled with every single player. I think
agree.
that was the key. I might be wrong, but I believe strongly that was the key.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? About business being a team sport, and it doesn't matter how good a particular individual is. Liverpool was never built under Jurgen Klopp to be a team that highlighted any one or two particular individuals. It was highlighted that we are a team sport, and we're very fortunate to have some very talented players. But every single one of you is equally as important, and without you, this doesn't work. Yeah. And that instills this real level of belief and trust and comfort, and people are unafraid to take risks. People are, you know, we're all in this together. And I think that's really important. I think that also kind of instills in them what it means to be a Scouser, what it means to be from the city. That's the same level of defiance, the same level of we'll look out for each other. We don't need anybody else. That was instilled throughout the football club, which is what led to the success that we had then and the success that Arne Slot's continuing to build on today.
What's your expectation this season with Liverpool? If I may ask.
We'll win the Premier League. I'm pretty confident at this point we'll win the Premier League, and that's a scary thing to say, having lost the league on like the last day a couple of times in recent years, which is incredibly painful. Or to lose the league by 1 point to Manchester City, which we did, and it was like, it was excruciating. I'd rather lose by 50 points than by 1 point. I'm telling you, it was agonizing. But I'm getting to the point where I'm allowing myself to dream that this is looking likely for us this season, and we get to enjoy the success that comes from that, which is good, because the last time we won the league I was sick with COVID and I remember very little about it. I remember that we won it, and I remember the videos.
Yeah, that was a weird season.
Oh, it was a bizarre season. It was horrible, and the last game what we'd had before lockdown had been the Atletico Madrid game where we got knocked out of Europe, and I was at that game, and that was actually the game that I caught COVID. And then I was really, really ill for about 18 months, you know, in and out of hospital. Like, I was in a really, really bad way, and that was the season that we won the league. So I was like, I've waited 30-something years to watch Liverpool win the league, and now I'm practically in a coma while we're winning it. This feels feels very cruel. So at least I'm awake for this one, as I keep saying it. So no, that's the expectation. We've had a difficult couple of weeks, but we're still in the main hunt for the one that we want and the one that we deserve, and I'm pretty confident that we're coming to get it.
What do you think about Mo Salah?
Mo Salah, certainly the best player of a generation, undoubtedly. I really hope that he renews his contract and he stays. I'm pretty confident that he will, but in football, anything can happen. I've seen that before. I'm trying not to get too emotionally attached, because I remember when Fernando Torres left for Liverpool, I basically needed like 3 weeks of mourning. I was a real mess, and I'd spent the whole month being like, he's going nowhere. I was like, he's going nowhere. Like, and I just denied it. And then when he left, I was like, I can't turn my cell phone on. I can't leave the house. Like, I don't want this. So that was devastating. Mo reminds me in many ways, not in playing style, but he reminds me in many ways of Cristiano Ronaldo, the way that he takes care of himself, the way that he is just the ultimate professional. He will play the game for as long as he can possibly play the game. And whilst many players are retiring in their early 30s, Mo and Ronaldo, quite frankly, could play well into their 40s because of how well they take care of themselves and how disciplined they are. And I think that's a real inspiration, not just for athletes, but also for, business owners. It doesn't matter how good you've achieved right now. You can still do more. You can still learn. You can still improve. Every day is a training day. So, I love the guy. I think regardless as to what happens from now, you can't take away from him what he's achieved. I think the difference between staying and leaving is his legend status. I think if he stays at Liverpool until the end of his career, he will be considered a Liverpool legend for the next 100, 200, 300 years, and probably get a statue. If he leaves, I think that dampens that, and instead of being a legend, he is a very talented player who played for our club that we enjoyed watching, but I don't think you can hold him in that legend status because he left.
Yeah. Let's see.
Let's see. Indeed.
Yeah. You're taking your academy model to India and South America. Why those locations?
Yeah. Disadvantaged communities that have yet more high-paying academies taking advantage of players. So it was more of the same. It was very similar demographics and models in terms of there are people that deserve empowerment that are being overlooked, and we can help with that. So let's do it.
What's the long-term vision? Where do you see your project, your academy, in 5 years from now?
I have absolutely no idea.
I love it.
No, genuinely, I don't. I really don't. I mean, provided it's having an impact on communities, on parents, and on their children, and it's elevating people and giving them an opportunity they didn't have before, then I'll be happy. But honestly, I can't answer that. And I don't think I'd want to answer that either, because I like that this is growing organically. I like that this kind of has a life of its own, and we will do what feels right when it feels right. But to predict that, I think, would be wrong.
But Phil, you say football saved your life. Now you're using football to save others.
Yeah.
What does that really mean to you? And when I ask, where do you see the academy in 5 years from now? It's not...
Are the two connected? Yeah, so I can't really put into words what it means to me, actually, without getting all emotional. I will forever have love and respect for the people that gave me an opportunity and allowed me to change my life. That isn't why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't want people's love, adoration, or respect. In fact, there's a great story that I heard about from a Muslim friend of mine, and it was something from the Quran, I believe, and he says, the best form of charity is the type that can be given so quietly that the left hand doesn't know that the right hand gave it. And what I mean by that is, if I could do this for people and them not know it was me, I would be even happier. Because it's not about me wanting to stroke my ego or wanting to... It's not about me in the slightest, actually, which is weird, because a lot of stuff in my life is about me, but this isn't. Let me try and explain it this way, and I don't even know if this is going to come across properly. I hope it will. It's not something I want to do. It's something I feel like I must do. Because somebody took a chance on me and elevated my life to this point where now I'm now in a position to do that for other people. What kind of person does that take me if I don't do that? What kind of person am I that somebody took that chance on me and I now live a completely different life that's continuing to get better and better and better year on year, and I don't reinvest some of that back into helping other people up the ladder? That doesn't make me the kind of person that I want to be. Doesn't make me the kind of person that can sleep well at night. Sure as hell doesn't make me the kind of person that feels good about dying one day and having to answer for all the decisions I've made in my life. So this for me is about helping as many people as humanly possible, because I'm now in a position to do so because somebody did it for me. And you know what? God willing, some of the people that I do this for will be able to go on and do this for other people again in the future, and it will just be a continuous ripple effect. That is where I want this to go.
Where do you see the biggest opportunities for innovation in sports business?
So many people at the top of professional sports are sports people through and through. They've rarely worked in other industries. So I think the biggest opportunity is actually that phrase I mentioned earlier about the geographical and industrial cross-pollination. I think if you just look outside the world of sport, you see a great big wide world that you're currently ignoring. And I think there are so many opportunities for innovation. I think the use of technology, I think the use of AI, I think there is so much that could be embraced within the world of sport right now that in many other industries is actually the norm. And in sport, it hasn't even occurred to them yet. And when they do, the game's going to look different forever. And I find that incredibly exciting.
If someone listening wants to support your mission within the academy, how can they get involved?
Wow, good question. So we have a website, peluchasports.com. You're welcome to come to peluchasports.com. I guess it depends on how you want to get involved. I mean, just book in a conversation with us, drop us an email, drop us a line. If you are somebody that wants to contribute financially, there will be players that will be very grateful for that. If you're somebody that wants to contribute time or well wishes or support or knowledge, we will absolutely take any of that off your hands in any capacity. So this for me is a movement I'm very proud of. And if it's resonated with you and you'd like to get involved and have no idea how you even want to get involved, but you just know you should or you want to, or you've got that feeling, now you're experiencing the same feeling I did when I set the thing up in the first place. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I would always welcome that conversation. Even if it's just to kind of wish us well, it's always, positivity goes a long way.
Yeah. Okay, Phil, now it's time for our lightning round. Ready for a speedy Q&A?
Let's do
it. One book that changed your perspective on business?
The Entrepreneur Revolution by Daniel Priestley.
And if I ask one movie?
Goodfellas.
Favorite footballer of all time?
Oh,
I know there is so many, but you need to pick one.
Steven Gerrard.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, so he was a one-club man. He really kind of embodied everything about our city. He grew up about 10 minutes away from where I grew up, and he got to live the dream that we all wanted to live. So he led us to some success. He went through some failure, but he's ultimately just a brilliant man. And I really admire what he achieved, where he came from, and what he was able to achieve. I think it's a real rags to riches story, and I love those stories. I'm a real cheeseball for those stories.
Nice. Morning person or a night owl?
Oh no, night owl. I'm not a morning person in the slightest. The only time I'm a morning person is when I haven't been to bed yet. I'm definitely a night owl.
So you need time to warm up in the morning. It's like this old car,
Definitely. If I wake up in the morning at all, absolutely. I always blame the time zone and say it's because I work with the US, but to be fair, I worked afternoons and evenings even when I was in the US, so it's not true. I've always been somebody who my inspiration comes to me at night. In the morning, it takes me a couple of cups of coffee to get ready.
So no tea? If I ask coffee or tea? Or both?
Oh, coffee. I like both, but yeah, I'm more of a coffee drinker these days. But as a Brit, I think they'd take my passport off me if I said I didn't like tea. So I do love a good cup of tea, but yeah, I'm mainly on the coffee at the moment. I must absolutely.
Favorite city you visited?
Well, not the one I'm from. That is my favorite city, but I won't use that one. Favorite city I've ever visited is probably Cape Town in South Africa. It reminds me, if anyone's ever watched the Peter Pan movies, it reminds me of Neverland. You've got this great big gorgeous mountain range. You've got Table Mountain, which is one of the wonders of the world, and directly behind that you've got the flatlands and the vineyards. But before, like, there's a sheer drop off of the mountain, and then you've got Cape Town as a city right on the coast. You've got the two oceans meeting, where there's literally a line in the middle where the warm water meets the cold water. I don't know. The place is bizarre. It's like it can't be real, and the fact that it is makes it even more special. It's probably one of the most beautiful cities on the planet that I've ever been to. Close second would be Barcelona, but Barcelona is mainly for the architecture. I really enjoy Barcelona as a city. I love all the Gaudi. I love La Sagrada Familia. I love the Gothic district. I think it's a beautiful city, but everything all in one: people, culture, food, weather, architecture, natural beauty. It's got to be Cape Town.
Great. Dream sports event to attend live?
I actually did it twice already, so it's the Champions League final, and I've
Okay.
now done that twice. Once we lost, and that was miserable. And thank you, Real Madrid. I've still not forgiven them. It was 2019. And then the other one was actually, ironically, in Madrid when we won it. I think it was the following year. So that is my dream sports event to go to, and I'm blessed that I've been there twice, and I'm sure I'll be there more times again in the future.
If you could instantly master one new skill, what would it be?
Okay, it's going to sound really strange. Spanish. I would instantly know how to speak Spanish. It's a beautiful language. I am trying, but I'm not the best at languages. I don't know why that part of my brain appears to have been removed. My youngest daughter started learning at the same time, and she's now practically fluent, and I still sound like a tourist on holiday. She's got a beautiful accent.
Nice.
I'm still at the point where if I try and speak Spanish to somebody, they're instantly going to respond to me in English because they know that I'm English. I'm like, how did you know I was English? And they're just like, yeah, we know. So that, honestly, it would be that, because it's one of those things that I would love to be able to do that I just haven't mastered yet. I absolutely will, but I haven't managed it yet.
And finally, one word that defines your philosophy on life.
Rebellious. I'm very rebellious. The fastest way to motivate me to do anything is to tell me I can't do it.
Yeah. Or it's impossible.
The second, yeah, it's impossible. You can't do it. It can't be done. Something switches on in my brain and goes, oh yeah, I'll show you. And I go out of my way to do it, which at times in my life has been very powerful. And in other times of my life have led to moments where I've spent a lot of time and energy achieving something, only to achieve it for my brain to go, well, what was the point in that? Like, why did we do that? There's no one even watching. What was the point? But that part, I would never swap that part of my brain for anything, because that rebellious spirit is what's led me to where I am today, and that never say die attitude. So yeah, it's really fueled me and pushed me on to where I am today.
Fantastic. Phil Pelucha, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, I leave you with a few words from Nelson Mandela. Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who would benefit from these insights. You can now watch the entire episode on our YouTube and Spotify channels. While you're here, please do us a favor, hit follow and tap the bell. That bell is really important, so you will never ever miss an episode. We do our best to bring you stories that inspire, challenge, and motivate. We appreciate your support. Thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep making a difference. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.